I'm a pediatric emergency physician, and I've spent most of my career focused on ways we can integrate technology into the care that we deliver to create better care models, mainly focused on pediatrics. Emphasis has been on a lot of work in digital health and telehealth and trying to figure out how to bring more care into the home. I started a company that's focused on children with medical complexity. This was an area that in my own clinical practice was very near and dear to my heart. I saw how much these families struggled with navigating the healthcare system, and I knew we could do a better job supporting them. And I also knew that these children spent so much time in the hospital because their needs weren't being met. Like I said, I'm a pediatrician, but ended up having this incredible life opportunity to go work at a private equity firm for a year to incubate a concept of a mission-driven company, focuses on children that are on Medicaid. And we built a business model, and I created our entire clinical model and the entire way that the company would operate. We went from 3 co-founders to over 300 employees in less than 2 years. Today, the company is serving over 40,000 children with special healthcare needs. They're all Medicaid patients. And the first company that I built has already reached a multi-9-figure valuation. I help physicians find pathways to enter into the startup world, to work in industry, and to be able to make that one-to-many impact that I know I was able to make by building a company. And I see such a need for physician insight in the way these companies are being built. Startups are shaping the future of healthcare, and they need physicians to be at the table. Many physicians are very interested in this work, but don't have the slightest idea how to get into this or how to start. I am creating pathways for physicians of all different career stages to be able to contribute to industry and use their clinical knowledge in a new way. When I built my first company, I realized that by building a business, I was able to create what I call a one-to-many impact. So I still see patients in the ER, but it's a one-to-one impact. So every patient that I see, I am impacting that child and that family. But by building a startup, by building a healthcare startup, it's infused with my creativity and my clinical knowledge. We created a business that is now serving over 40,000 children. And I could see how I was able to use my knowledge to contribute to something that was so much greater than myself. And I want other physicians to be able to have that impact too. I envision the possibility of having a many-to-many impact, training many physicians how to get their voice into the world and how to contribute to industry, to innovation, to startups, and to new healthcare ventures to really shape healthcare's future. I can remember the first time that I realized that my input was needed to shape the future of healthcare. And I was working in a busy emergency department, got a call from a rural hospital. They had a child that they knew was very sick, needed to get to pediatric care as fast as possible. And they called and they said, "We're putting this kid on a helicopter. He'll be there soon. We don't know what's wrong." And I felt crippled that I could not see him. I didn't have any information, didn't have vital signs, was not really able to provide any guidance for them. Unfortunately, this child had an unrecognized head injury and he herniated in that flight and he died. I knew at that moment, this did not have to happen. I knew that if I had just been able to see him and provide input to that team before they put him on that helicopter, that the outcome may have been different. And I realized that even though this was not something we were doing at the time, there was no reason why that shouldn't be a possible solution for how we care for kids. I knew that I had to create pathways. I knew that I could not wait for someone else to create this because it was too important. I knew there were kids' lives on the line, and that's what really got me started in telehealth and digital health, and ended up with me creating a national research network on telehealth for pediatrics, a lot of publications, ultimately getting into a role where I was managing virtual care programs for children, which then led to the creation of my company. I have perspective as a physician of how healthcare needs to change, where the problems are, and what the potential solutions are. I made it my personal mission to figure out how to make those solutions happen. Originally, when I knew I wanted to work with complex kids, I was working in a more traditional healthcare system, built a community-based program at a nonprofit hospital that had really great clinical results. We really changed the clinical trajectory of these children, but it wasn't financially sustainable. So we weren't actually getting paid anything for this program. It unfortunately got cut during the pandemic because budgets changed. And while that was the perfect place for me to pilot a program, it was not the right place for me to scale a program. I ended up finding myself at a career crossroads trying to figure out, do I stay in this traditional environment where I have a paycheck, or do I go off on my own? That was really scary for me. I actually had a lot of coaching and a lot of inputs to really help me solidify my plans and my idea. But ultimately, I ended up being recruited by a healthcare private equity firm that wanted to invest in exactly the concept that I knew how to build. And so it was this giant leap of faith. I'm a mom of 4 kids. My husband is also a doctor. We both quit our jobs and moved our family to Nashville for me to work at this private equity firm to try and build this concept, because we felt that sure that this solution had to come to market. I knew that we needed to build this for these children and their families. And I knew that it was going to be this incredible opportunity to really learn, be so immersed in a new environment. It was totally different for me. I spent an entire year at this firm being the clinical expert to build this model of care. So I was a co-founder of this new company and really worked alongside a number of different disciplines, whether they were investment bankers or healthcare economists or operators, to build and design and sell the right model of care that ultimately became this wildly successful business. I had to trust in the value of growth. I actually knew when I was quitting my job and my husband was quitting his job and we were moving our family of 6, I knew that there was a chance that this company was never going to launch. And I knew that even if it never launched, I was going to be in a better career position having had that experience than where I was at that time. It took a leap of faith. It certainly wasn't easy. There were times that my co-founders and I felt pretty discouraged. We felt like the company was never going to take off, or that we weren't ever going to be able to serve kids in the way that we envisioned. We had a lot of input. So in an early stage company, you only have so much internal expertise. So you have your core co-founders and maybe a firm that's helping support it, but you rely a lot on external expertise, consultants, advisors, people who are experts. That's also how I encourage physicians to get involved. There are companies that are looking for you. There are companies that are trying to solve the exact problems that you deal with every single day, and they really need your input. It really gave me a lot of perspective on how important it is for a company to have a solid clinical model. If you don't have that, then as soon as you start operating, things are going to fall apart. It's not going to perform the way it needs to, because healthcare is different than any other industry. These are people's lives that we're talking about. Physicians need to be at the table helping design these concepts, helping define the problems. You start with the problem before you design a solution. So healthcare is an industry where everyone plays it super safe. There are so many reasons why we have to be really cognizant of quality and safety because these are people's lives we're talking about. And healthcare can be very slow to adapt to change because these are people's lives that we're talking about. I found that one of the things that served me really well was using design thinking principles to try to uncover new ideas that are still safe. It's not how we're trained to think in healthcare. We are trained to create very linear step-by-step processes. We are trained to follow algorithms and guidelines and evidence-based practices, which is good medicine. That's exactly what we should be doing. I don't want to get creative when I'm treating a child with septic shock. I want to follow a protocol. But when it comes to actually seeing the problems in healthcare and designing new solutions, we have to do things differently. We can't keep doing what we're doing and expect different results. I encourage physicians and train physicians how to think differently and really parse out, do we do this in healthcare because it's high quality, or do we do it this way because that's how it's always been done? Because there are so many options. There's other industries we can pull from. There's models we can consider that work for other areas. One of the things I do, I look at models that work in adult medicine and adapt them to pediatrics. So there's all sorts of ways we can do things differently. But if you're in a traditional healthcare environment, you're probably not encouraged to be very creative or try and find new ways to do things because that's just not how the healthcare system works. I want to encourage doctors that not only are your ideas valuable, but you understand the problems so deeply that you are one of the only ones that can actually design the right solution. One thing that stands out to doctors is the fact that they do want to be creative. They do want to share ideas and thoughts on how to make things better. And you don't have to quit your job to do that. So many physicians are finding purpose and meaning and creativity and even fun working with founders, working with venture firms, working on new ideas, even while they're still practicing medicine. So I still see kids in the ER, but I do most of my time working with companies and building new concepts that I feel like are really going to move the needle in healthcare. I'm often asked by doctors whether they have what it takes to actually contribute to startups, because a lot of us feel like we need to have A+ work to be able to do well at something. And we're trained that way in medicine. You don't have to be an expert in business or finance to contribute. The reason that startups and venture want your opinion is because of your clinical knowledge. And every single one of us went through medical school, has seen thousands of patients, and deeply understand the problems in our particular field. I don't think there's any doctors who are excluded from being an expert enough to work with companies. Even if you say, well, I haven't done this before, I've never been an advisor, I'm sure you have contributed to something within your organization to either do quality improvement or a new initiative or a new workflow. You have been creative in the past, and you can translate those skills to helping companies. Even if you're early in your career, you are still a doctor. You are still someone who understands what your patients need, and you probably have some ideas on how you could fix it. You're just not in an environment that lets you explore or design those ideas. A lot of the work that I've done with companies and concepts starts with a blank piece of paper. So I've spent a lot of time whiteboarding or mapping out what is wrong in the healthcare system and what sorts of things could be done to make it better. It was so inspiring to me to realize once we went from a concept on paper to an actual company with patients and employees, I remember how I would go to our office and look around and realize, I can't believe all these people work here. And all of these people are carrying forth the mission and the vision that my co-founders and I created. And they are doing work with so many patients. And it's like watching your child grow up. They joke that having kids is like having part of your heart run around outside your body, but it's independently functioning. And when I realized that this company was growing up, was independently functioning without me, but was still so driven by that core mission and vision that my co-founders and I created, it was really inspiring. And I can see now that even as the company is continuing to grow nationwide, that there are hundreds of people delivering care to thousands of children, and I'm not even in the day-to-day operations. I find it really inspiring, and that's the sort of thing that physicians can think about. What if your idea could grow to reach thousands or millions of patients because you actually were able to pick it apart and find the right model, find the right partners, and contribute to something in a way that grows to be an exponential impact? And you don't have to be a founder. You don't have to have a really good idea that can become a multi-million-dollar business. Even just starting with your own field and starting to search what sorts of companies are coming up in your field. What sorts of problems are firms trying to solve that you may know the answers to? Those are really great starting points because they need your input. When the company took off, it felt really surreal because I spent so much time with my co-founders sitting on the floor, drawing on paper, trying to figure out how we were going to get this off the ground. Not only are we serving thousands of kids, but we're employing hundreds of healthcare workers. It was shocking to realize that with a really, really deep mission and a different way of doing things. It did feel surreal, but it also made me want to do it again. I have other ideas. I have other concepts that I'm working on. I realized that this doesn't have to be the only company I create. And I think that once you get involved in this world, even if you've never done this before, you can find opportunities to get involved in a small way and grow that. But as you get experience, you realize this isn't rocket science. There are some really tried and true pathways and frameworks for building and growing a business. The core of a good business is having the right problem to solve and having the right mission. You can use all sorts of strategies to solve these problems, but the core is getting the problem right. We had to overcome a lot of doubt about the concept. There were times that we felt pretty sure the company wasn't going to launch because there was this misconception that since pediatrics has so much less spend than adult medicine, that there wouldn't be enough of a market for the solution that we were developing. We felt really clear on the mission and felt like if we stayed true to our North Star, that we could really identify the right financial model to make the company work. As you're working on a concept, you are going to come across people that just don't believe in it. It is so important that you're putting your effort towards something that you deeply believe in, whether you're working as an advisor for a company or as a founder. It can be challenging when people don't believe in what you have to say. And I am a disruptor. I've had a lot of ideas throughout my career, and I've often had people that didn't agree with my ideas. I think about different things along my career path. I think about how I was really trying to initiate the implementation of telehealth in healthcare way before the pandemic, and how often I got the response that this was bad quality medicine. We should not be doing this. There's not an evidence base for it. We moved the needle so far that now it is ingrained in how we deliver healthcare. healthcare is going to change more in the next few years than any of us are prepared for. You should be in the driver's seat. You should be someone who is contributing knowledge, quality, clinical safety to these concepts because they're going to happen whether we contribute or not. And I want to see physicians at the table to help design and build these concepts because healthcare is going to be changing at a pace that none of us are comfortable with. AI is changing how all of us operate. It's going to make a dramatic transformation in society, whether we're ready for it or not. In some ways, it's easy to say that should not have a place in healthcare because we have a way of doing things because it's what is high quality and what's safe. I think we have to challenge our assumptions. I think we have to understand that new solutions will be coming to healthcare, but wouldn't you rather be the one putting guardrails on the safe use of new technology instead of just blocking it out altogether and saying we can't do that? Our initial reaction to new things in healthcare is often skepticism or fear. We have to be able to adapt at the speed that technology is changing. I like to try and teach physicians how to think in a new way while advocating for your patients. The more and more I use AI, the more I recognize the limitations of my own brain. I like to think that because I am a highly trained specialist doctor, that I can deliver exceptionally high quality care. I'm also recognizing that there's things that fall out of my brain or things that are not easily accessible when I need them. And I think that the way we handle knowledge is changing. And we still have deep skill sets as physicians that will always be needed, but using technology as more of a co-pilot or a thought partner is going to become a lot more common in healthcare and needed, and it will help us to be even more effective at serving patients. For those of you who are stopping and thinking, is this safe? This is going to lead to a lot of bad things. We have to put the safety guardrails on it. We have to identify what are all the bad things that could happen and how can we design this to make sure that each and every one of those bad things won't happen. So you can't just throw it all out and say, no, bad things will happen if we use this new technology. We have to be the ones to help design the process to make it safe. Definitely been moments that I've wanted to quit or felt I was not making the impact that I wanted to make. Most of the time, it was when I was in a tension between the work that I was doing and the work that I know I'm built to do. So, for instance, I am not someone who wants to really run operations. I am a visionary. I like to design and build things. There have been multiple points in my career where I've actually made the very challenging decision to walk away from a job and a salary to create space to create the next thing. And that is a scary thing. I think that many of us don't feel comfortable taking a risk like that. But every time that I have aligned my work with my core values and the sort of contribution I want to make, it has always turned out well for me because otherwise I end up trapped in a system where I'm doing work that I don't find to be my highest purpose or to be meaningful. Sometimes it takes a step away to realize that you can create something new for yourself. I really encourage people to design their lives because the most valuable thing that we have is our time. Understanding that I didn't want to spend my time going through the motions at a job that didn't meet my best skill set, and realizing that taking a pause, taking a step back, and even quitting that job was the best path forward. Whether you're looking for a free workbook to start to explore an idea, or you're looking for a course that will hold your hand step by step as you enter the world of startups as a consultant or an advisor, I want doctors to have so many options and so many pathways And I really want to create community around the doctors that are doing this work, because there's a lot of us over here who are really changing the industry and challenging the way we've done things in the past. And we're here to support each other. There is no competition. There's no shortage of roles. There are companies being built on every possible concept. And no matter where you are in your career or what specialty you are, I feel very strongly that there are opportunities for you to contribute. And if nothing else, to learn from this community and start to understand ways that other physicians are contributing and what pathways they've taken to get there. I want to encourage doctors to find their own path wherever they are in their journey and whatever it is that they're wanting to create, whether they want to be an advisor or an actual founder. Those are very different pathways, but I want to be there to support you no matter what route you want to take. One of the things that holds doctors back from pursuing this type of work is just not knowing anything about this world. They think, I don't know anything about startups or private equity or venture capital. I've never even met anyone that works in that field. And the truth is that there are many, many people in our community that are wanting to support you, to connect you. One concept that I really believe in is that your environment dictates your performance. If any of this feels very foreign to you or very hard or difficult, finding the right surroundings and surrounding yourself with people that are doing this work all of a sudden makes it exponentially easier, because you have the strategies, you have the connections, and you have someone to bounce ideas off of. And so that's what I'm envisioning to create for physicians that are working in startups, is a supportive community for us to really have each other's back and continue to learn from each other and learn from each other's success. So even if you're someone who has never worked with startups, you can find your place here and you can find your path. One of the barriers that people see is that they think they don't have enough knowledge to contribute in this area. So they may say, I need an MBA, or I don't have a finance background. I would challenge that the reason that you're needed over here is because of your clinical skills. Each and every one of you has seen thousands of patients, and you know where the problems are in healthcare. And so don't let it hold you back that you think you need more business knowledge. You will pick that sort of thing up as you keep working in this area, but what you're needed for is your clinical knowledge and your clinical skills. Are you a physician who's sitting here thinking, well, I don't have a multi-million-dollar idea to change healthcare? No company starts with a perfect idea. We need to train ourselves to start thinking this way of assessing for problems and thinking of creative solutions. I have asked physicians, can you think of a single problem in healthcare that affects your patients? And I've never talked to anyone that doesn't immediately know the answer of what problems you are struggling with in your field, what ideas you have that could potentially change or improve that problem. Starting with that as the core is how you develop an idea. And it doesn't even have to be your own idea. A lot of times I am helping companies develop their idea and contributing my knowledge and my skill set to their development of their idea. I have people come to me all the time to ask, how do I work with startups? I think I have what it takes, but I have no pathway to get there. And that's why I've created this community and this course to help physicians to have pathways to work with startups, to know exactly what to do step by step to find the right opportunities, the right ways to contribute value, the companies that are solving problems that you want to solve and that you are uniquely positioned to be able to help. Startup Physicians is a community for doctors who are ready to make a bigger impact with the knowledge that they already have. So we're a supportive community of doctors who are finding ways to contribute to startups and venture and industry. And there are so many different opportunities to be able to contribute. We're all learning from each other. We're all helping each other along the way. It's a place where you can become inspired and get leads and opportunities, and also really elevate quality of the people around you so that everything seems easier. It doesn't seem impossible to do something new when everyone around you is already doing it successfully. The goal of the community is to create a space where we can all support each other in this work with startups. My mission is to help more physicians have the one-to-many impact that I was able to create by starting a business. We want members of this community to feel incredibly supported. Even if you don't know the answer or the next thing to do, you have a whole community of people to call on and to consult to find the next best thing. And that's the thing about working with startups. There's often not a clear answer. And you're often trying to use the knowledge and the experience of your network and the people around you to solve challenging problems. Any physician who's interested in exploring this can participate in what we're trying to build. If you're interested in free trainings and community to talk to other doctors who are interested in this, or you want to listen to the podcast, we are highlighting really amazing stories of physicians that are working in startups. Or if you're ready to actually start your own advisory and consulting business, we have a course that will take you step by step through all the foundations of what you need to define your narrative, understand where you can create value, create your set of services, and understand where to find these opportunities. Beyond that, we have an advanced community for people who have now already gone through the foundations and are actively out there applying it. We have resources for anyone at any level, and I want this to be something that all physicians have access to. This is not for people who are rigid in their thinking and can't think of ways to do things differently in healthcare. We have to be willing to challenge the status quo to be able to make change in healthcare. I also work exclusively with physicians. I feel like I am only equipped to understand the physician perspective of the problem. And therefore, I have designed all of this to be a safe space for physicians to come together and to support each other and each other's ideas. I know what it's like to try and juggle everything and still feel like you're failing at all of it. I realized that the reason I felt that way was because of the system that I was working in and the way I was spending my time. I did not have a lot of control over my schedule or whether or not I could go to the Muffins with Mom event at preschool. And I wanted something more. I wanted to be able to design my life and practice medicine on my own terms. I found that entrepreneurship and building businesses has given me the outlet to be able to still practice medicine in a way that aligns with my goals and how I want to spend my time, while also giving me so much more flexibility to spend with my kids or my family or traveling, because I think that's what's most important. The only currency in life that truly matters is time. It's the only one that you can't get more of. And as my kids are getting older, I'm recognizing how precious this time with them is. I knew that I didn't want to be in a hamster wheel or a grind of constantly trying to meet others' goals or being part of a system that didn't give me the flexibility that I wanted for my life. I encourage physicians to realize that if you feel stuck, if you feel like you're not getting what you want out of your life, if you're not making it to your kids' soccer games because you don't get out of clinic on time, you're not stuck. There are endless opportunities available to you. Some of them may be hard choices to make. I've told you I have quit jobs and walked away from salaries to create something new. The outcome of something like that is designing your life. And I'm very focused on spending my time in a way that allows me to be a mom, to be a doctor, to be a business owner, and to fit that all in at a pace that is sustainable for me. We spend a lot of time in my family being open to new ideas and allowing my kids to explore things that they are interested in. I think that they are inspired by the work that I do and the way that I've not taken a traditional path. I don't know that my kids want to have jobs when they grow up. I think they're very inspired by the idea of creating something new. I've helped my kids start little mini entrepreneurial journeys. I've helped them to consider how they want to spend their time. And I think that you can find the right balance where you are very passionate about your work and you love what you do. And that comes through to your family, even if your job is hard. Last night, my 5-year-old asked me, as you get older, do your worries go away? And I asked her what she meant because I said, what are you worried about? She's like, well, hands down, monsters. And she said, but I don't think you're worried about monsters. So I assume that as you get older, your worries go away. And I thought that was so interesting because obviously we as adults choose to worry about so many other things, all of which are just as out of our hands as a monster under our bed. And I thought that was so inspiring because I realized, like, you're right. I am no longer worried about monsters. Maybe my worries go away as I grow. I think that's a really great concept because it is a choice to decide to be worried about something. You know, it really puts things in perspective.